So if you couldn't tell by my most recent uploads, I've been looking quite extensively into the first game in the Evil Within series, and while looking into the game, I've come up with a theory about Laura Victoriano and her supposed death. Now, let me start by saying that I do think that the developers intend for her to be dead. Every character seems to act as if she's dead, and her model description in the first game also states that she was 17 when she died. But as I look into the actual news clippings and the dialogue of some of the notes, I can't help but think that they missed an opportunity to make Ruvik a much more sympathetic character and give him a much more interesting goal. Let me explain. So from the events of the game, we learn that Ruben and his sister Laura were very close. And one day while they were playing together in their family's barn, a group of villagers caught the barn on fire as retribution against the family who'd purchased their land. Ruben managed to escape the fire severely scarred, and Laura, also consumed by the flames, was left in the barn as it burned down around her.
Ruben, you have to climb!
However, according to a news clipping from the Crimson Post, Laura didn't actually die in the fire. Instead, she was left in a vegetative state, and we are to assume that she passed away at a later date. But what if she didn't? What if during the events of the game, Laura is actually still in that vegetative state? What if Ruvik actually created the system as a way to coax her consciousness back into her body? Or even find a way to get her into a new body, similar to what he did with Leslie? To my knowledge, it is never explicitly stated by any of the characters or documents that Laura is in fact dead. In fact, in one of them, Ruvik states that he doesn't believe his father and that she's still alive. And while this can easily be chalked up to denial, it does seem possible that Ruben's father was trying to either spare his son's torment of knowing that she was in a constant state of limbo, or attempting to help him not dwell on her being in that state by telling him that she's gone. It's also odd that these documents that actually reference Laura and her fate leave it a bit ambiguous. For instance, in Marcelos' audio tracks from the DLC, where he says,
"His scarring is heavy, both physically and emotionally, but he longs for his lost sister. His love for her borders almost on an incestuous level, but as long as it provides motivation, so be it."
It could very easily be the case that when he says lost, he's referring to her still being in the coma, a state where you're unable to reach that person. Or perhaps even better proof being Ruvik's own audio tape simply entitled Laura, where he says the following.
"Everything I have, everything I am, has been taken from me since the accident by those who seek to consume me. They are in the darkness, with only the phantoms of my mind to comfort me, to taunt me. I nearly lost myself completely. But then I saw her. Deep down I know she was only an apparition, but I would regain my face, recover what was taken from me, restore her, my beloved sister, Laura."
A very odd phrase for him to use in my opinion, and would fit nicely with him attempting to restore her consciousness to her vegetative body. Another peculiarity that gives credence to this theory is an Easter egg that we can see in the first DLC. In this DLC, we play as Kidman, and while making our way through a laboratory of sorts, we run into a girl wearing a red dress with flowing black hair standing behind a malfunctioning door. The girl is obviously meant to be Laura, but why is she here? We see no flawless recreations of her before this point in Sebastian's journey. The only Laura that we have contact with is the creature. Which leads me to the possibility of the future on the off chance that I'm correct. In this scenario, the girl seen here is actually Laura, not something created by Ruvik's mind. At some point, Ruvik managed to get her into the stem system. Either that or perhaps her comatose body was within the radius of the machine when Jimenez threw the switch for the wireless signal. Ruvik was perhaps unaware of her being inside of the system during the events of the first game, but learns of it later when he goes back for her comatose body while he's in the real world as Leslie. This would also be a nice answer to why the ending of the second game shows someone booting up the stem system. This could be Ruvik booting up the system after he learns that his sister's consciousness is trapped in there and he attempts to get her out. It could also potentially give Sebastian a reason to get back into the stem system. As is established in the second game, he is a man with a lot of guilt. Perhaps the guilt of not being able to help Leslie is weighing on him. Somehow he learns that Ruvik will be going back into the beacon system, and he attempts to follow him in order to help Leslie get back in control of his own body. However, like I said in the beginning, it does seem the developers intend for Laura to be dead, as we can see from the model description. and it would seem that the majority of the fan base has already accepted this fate for her as well. So to say that she was alive this whole time may be a bit of a hard sell for people since they've already accepted that she's gone. But I do think this is an interesting theory that makes sense to me given the information that we're given in the game, and it would also be a nice way to tie the series back together should they make another title. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Is there any major oversight that I've missed as to why there's no way that this theory could be true outside of the model description? Is there a better explanation as to who would be booting up the STEM system after all this time? Let me know what you guys think. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope to see you all in the next one.